2021 has seen the emergence of one of the members of the Ball family as one of the most intriguing young talents in the league and one of the most exciting players at the point guard position. So the Hornets must be feeling good about choosing LaMelo in last year's draft. But the problem is, things haven't been going as well for big brother Lonzo. After averaging modest numbers during his first year as a member of the Pelicans and showing improvement in some areas of his game, people expected Lonzo to have a breakout season this time around, especially considering his rookie contract wasn't extended during the offseason. However, a rough start to the season made a lot of people quickly lose faith in him, and with the Pelicans struggling to remain alive during their first month under Coach Van Gundy, his name started being mentioned more and more as part of trade rumors. And while things have seemingly cooled off recently, it may only take another slump for the rumors to come back. So it could be only a matter of time before his time in New Orleans is officially done. But should the Pelicans really try to send him away? Well, let's talk about it. Not so long ago, Lonzo came into the league with high expectations about his future. People believed he had the potential to become a star point guard. And even Magic Johnson bought into the hype by saying Ball would become the face of the Lakers, and someday have his number retired by the team. For the first few weeks of his career, it certainly looked like that was a possibility. In his second game as a pro, he finished an assist shy of recording a 29-point triple-double. But a few days later, he made up for it by becoming the then youngest player in league history to post a triple-double. His hot streak continued for some days, but it didn't take long for the struggles to begin. Before 2017's Christmas game, he sprained his left shoulder and had to miss 6 games. But once he came back, inconsistency became a major issue. He spent the rest of his rookie season being in and out of the lineup because of injuries, making it hard for him to develop any kind of rhythm. So even though he earned an appearance in the Rising Stars Challenge and the All-Rookie Second Team, he was limited to 50 appearances, and people couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if he'd been healthy. History mostly repeated itself in the following 2 years, and his sophomore season, he showed a remarkable improvement on the defensive end, but initially struggled with having to adapt to playing with the recently acquired LeBron James. Eventually, both players started to develop chemistry, and they became the first pair of teammates to each post a triple-double in the same game since 2007. On top of that, he started showing improvement after Coach Walton challenged him publicly. But unfortunately, injuries put a premature end to his season once again. By the time he had made a full recovery, Lonzo was out of LA. He, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, and several draft picks had been traded to New Orleans in exchange for Anthony Davis after months of speculation regarding a possible deal between both teams. But people had high hopes for him. If he managed to stay healthy, a fresh start away from LeBron's shadow and the high expectations that come with being a Laker could become all he needed to reach his full potential. So many expected him to finally take that next step, but unfortunately, that never happened. During his first year with the Pelicans, he showed improvement in multiple areas of his game. His shooting from long range in particular became more reliable as the season progressed, and it started to look like he may finally be able to become a threat from outside the three-point line. His 20-point games also became somewhat more frequent, but it was still common for him to finish games in single-digit scoring. So by taking a look at the stat sheet, it would be easy to assume he became a better player. After all, most of his numbers looked better than in previous years. For the first time in his career, injuries didn't stop him from playing until the last game of the season. And of course, his connection with Zion was something impressive, just like most of the lobs completed between the duo. However, it never felt like he was in a position to become anything more than a role player. With Ingram, Drew Holiday, and eventually Williamson ahead of him in the team's pecking order, his role was often similar to that of a 3-and-D player. To make things worse, he had a miserable run inside the bubble. Almost all of his averages went down, and his shooting from long range took a major step back as the Pelicans failed to live up to expectations and ended up being eliminated from playoff contention rather quickly. In his own words, Lonzo said he felt like he had let the team down with his performances. Of course, he wasn't the only reason behind the Pelicans' struggle during the seeding game, but he didn't make things any better, and that ultimately cost him when the offseason came around, as he and the team couldn't agree on an extension. So once again, all the attention turned to whether he'd manage to take his game to the next level in the upcoming season. This time around, he would have a new coach, a new backcourt teammate, and a healthy Zion from the start of the season. He would have to show he was worthy of receiving a good contract, and since he revealed he wanted to win Most Improved Player of the Year, just like Ingram did the season before, he would also have to show he's actually capable of competing for that award. But during the first few weeks of the season, it looked like it would be very difficult for him to achieve any of those goals. His game in December and January left a lot to be desired, and some people even started to believe he was one of the reasons why the Pelicans started slowly once again despite being healthy. His scoring average was similar to last year, and his defense remained arguably the best part of his game, but there were few other reasons to be excited about him. Instead, many things seemed alarming at first. His passing and rebounding averages were considerably down from the last season, and his shooting from long range remained almost as bad as it was inside the bubble. The only area where he made any improvements was on his free throw shooting, but considering the few shots he takes from the charity stripe, it wasn't enough to compensate for his regression in other aspects of his game. So when the losses kept piling up for the Pelicans, Lonzo was one of the first players to be pointed out by the public. Neither he nor Bledsoe was living up to their expectations, and with both members of their starting lineup struggling to start the season, there was little the rest of the team could do. Reasonably, the trade rumors became louder after every game, and if the team continued losing, it probably would have been a matter of time before they made a move. But then things started to improve for the oldest Ball brother. A 27-point performance against Milwaukee in which he made 7 threes and helped New Orleans get a win caught the attention of the basketball world. And while he couldn't replicate those numbers during the next game, things became much better for him from that point on. Since the start of February, he's been making almost half of his three-pointers, and his scoring and rebounding numbers have also seen a significant improvement. So far, he's scored in double digits in each game, and quite surprisingly, he's made 90% of his shots from the free throw line. He's been playing more aggressively, and while that's been excellent to boost his averages, it's also helped the team perform better. They haven't exactly turned a corner just yet, but they've been playing a lot better than during their miserable January. Now, making the playoffs seems like a reasonable goal once again, and that's had a lot to do with Lonzo's improved play. However, instead of ensuring his future with the team, his recent performances have led up to a difficult question. What should the team do with him? Having him playing at a high level means the Pelicans should be able to win more games, and that will put them a step closer to making the playoffs. That alone should be enough reason to keep him off the trading block. But considering his previous history, how can the team be sure he will keep performing like this? Nobody can tell whether he's finally unlocked the best version of himself, or if it's only a matter of time before he regresses once again. And that puts the team in a complicated situation. There were already a few teams interested in making a trade for Lonzo, and that was with him playing rather mediocre basketball. Now that he's performing at a higher level, it is possible other teams consider he could play as well, if not better, with them. And that means the Pelicans could get more value for him as part of a trade. But should they really do it? While keeping him means he can take a step back at any moment, replacing him is not exactly an easy thing to do. Bledsoe probably wouldn't be any better than him as the main ball handler, and they don't have anyone on the bench who can step up as their starting point guard. If they send him away, it would also be difficult to receive a player that can do the things he does. 3-and-D guys are some of the most valuable players in the league, and those who can make plays for their teammates are even more so. In other words, it could be difficult finding a team willing to part ways with someone who does what Lonzo does. There's the idea the team could get multiple pieces in return that could help them improve their bench. However, giving away your starting point guard and best defender for depth in the middle of the season doesn't sound like a winning formula. So, unless someone makes the Pelicans an offer they can't refuse, the best will be to keep Lonzo on board. In the worst of cases, he'll provide excellent defense, solid passes, and hopefully shooting from three-point range. That won't turn him into an all-star anytime soon, especially in the Western Conference, but it should be enough to help him remain with the same team for a while. In the end, it's hard to tell what will happen with Lonzo in the future. He's arguably one of the most polarizing players in the league, and his inconsistency and health issues have often made it look like people shouldn't have expected so much from him. But even though it may not feel like it, it's still too early to tell. He may not become the next Jason Kidd, but he still has a chance to become better than the next Ricky Rubio. If he can continue playing at a high level, the Pelicans should keep their faith in him for a little longer, and perhaps he'll be able to prove them right in the long term. But now, what would you do in the Pelicans' place? Would you prefer to trade Lonzo while his value is high? Let us know in the comments. We hope you've enjoyed today's video, and if you did, remember to like it and subscribe to our channel for more NBA content. We are Courtside.